Let's talk about general positioning of the outfield. You've never played this team before. Where should you position yourselves out in the outfield? A rule of thumb that I try to teach our athletes is, first of all, I don't like to have our outfield directly behind somebody in the infield, because in that way I think it's harder to see the ball, it's harder to see angles of the pitcher's release of the ball, so you can see how the bat hits the ball in terms of your reaction time and getting that good jump off the ball. Your depth varies. A lot of times as athletes, if you've never seen a team that you're playing before, sneak a peek. Look at the hitter, look at her size. When she swings, hey, does she swing aggressively? Is she quick? Does she have a slow swing? Check out those situations, and that may help you in order to adjust your positioning. Look at where your pitcher throws the ball. If she throws the ball on a right-handed hitter to the outside a lot, then you know, hey, this possibly is an opposite field hitter, or we're trying to keep the ball away from somebody's power. So therefore, we may need to shift a little bit, and this is part of this balance. Even at times, if you have scouted some of these teams, coaches and athletes themselves, and you know this player after being on the college circuit or the high school circuit or the summer circuit or whatever level that you're playing at, but if you've seen this athlete several times as a hitter, and they have a tendency, as we all know, hitters do have tendencies, if they're always a pull hitter, always up the left side of the field, well then, you know, maybe you don't shift your right fielder at all, but you shift your left fielder to the pull position toward and protect that left field line, and maybe you really shift that center fielder also. Even though you give up a gap between center and right, chances are you'll have a better opportunity for two people going for the ball than one. So that's something to think about too when you're looking at shifting in your positional play as athletes and also as coaches. Let's talk a little bit now about your responsibilities as outfielders. And this is what I talk about when I say indirect. You're indirectly involved in just about every play there is in the game, in what I call backup situations. Backups from hits to the infield. Where do you go? Well, it's a real simple rule of thumb. Whatever base you're closest to, that's who you kind of back up. For example, there's no runners on, ball is hit to the infield, the play is going to go to first. Well, then that right fielder basically should back up that first base area. The center fielder basically would back up probably somewhere in between second and first, just in case of a bad throw. And then my left fielder will probably be in between the third base and second, just in case. So they'll be there for throws to second. Rule of thumb, ball hit straight up the middle, okay, and the shortstop's going for it and it's missed. Nobody on. It's very simply the center fielder closest to second base backs that up. The third base outfielder area would probably be somewhere in between, and certainly the right fielder should then back up first base area just in case. And meanwhile, believe it or not, our catchers run down the line a lot from the infield position to help throws going to first, because it's one thing to concede a single, it's another to give up extra bases based on either positional mistakes or miscues from the defense with throwing or fielding errors. Which reminds me, again, as coaches and as athletes, the object of good defense is to prevent runners from scoring. That last 60 feet in the game is the most critical part of the game. So if you try to prevent the number of runners from scoring and you get to score more, then you know what the outcome will be. Quite frankly, the reverse is true. If you have more runners finishing and scoring at that 60 feet at the end, you know what that outcome is going to be too, and it means probably more practicing the next day. From what I call backups, a lot of times also as outfielders you'll back up each other. Very simply on even fly balls. Fly balls going to, let's say, right field, you'll have the center fielder move over toward the right field area, and they'll also communicate, plenty of room, plenty of room. And then what will happen, your left fielder, with no runners on, will probably be somewhere between third and second, just in case a ball is dropped. With situations going up the middle, the same thing is true. Your center fielder will go for the ball. Possibly your right fielder would possibly do one of two things. She could cover first area, or she'll back up the center fielder. Or we can have, if she covers first, then your left fielder will then back up your center fielder with no runners on, or your left fielder would then move toward the third base area, just in case, if your first base person will back up your center fielder on flies. And then what's going to happen, the closest outfielder will help that center fielder, saying to her, plenty of room, make the catch, you've got it. Something that will be confident for her to make the catch. Also in backup situations, you'll find from not only the backups from infielder areas that we talked about, backups from outfield, talk about backups from throws. That's another area that's critical, that a lot of people don't realize how active outfielders can be. And if you play the outfield correctly and consistently, you'll be just as tired in a game like your infielders will be. You'll be active in every single play. With balls that are misthrown, because we know most of mistakes that are made today in the game are throwing errors, then as outfielders, you need to position yourself so that you can be backed up so the ball doesn't get by you. How far should you be? Well, again, it's based on your quickness, and it's also based on angles. It's important to get the proper angle, and it's important so that you want to be far enough away that you can make the play, and yet close enough so that you can be part of the action if you yourself have to make the throw, or, quite frankly, if you can run it in, that's great. But the biggest mistake that young fielders make in the game of team defense played in the outfield is holding the ball. A lot of times, if young outfielders hold the ball, people will advance. So either run the ball in if your depth tells you to run it in, or throw the ball. But one thing you want to prevent is holding the ball.